I let the grinder go about 3 minutes, 2.5, 3 minutes instead of just like a minute. And this is all I had left in the bottom when I sifted it. So I think the reason why I had so much debris and whatever left the last time I used this machine is I just didn't let it go long enough. And I think this stuff that's left is just the natural like outer shell of the wheat berry, and it wouldn't grind up any finer than that no matter how long I let the machine run. So I'm going to go ahead and just grind my wheat at 3 minutes from now on. I'm still going to sift it because I like my flour to be nice and fine like that, and I will just give this stuff to my worms. So as you can tell, I am going to be making some more yumminess out of this homemade flour cookbook. I am going to make cinnamon, they're called cinnamon pull-aparts, but I'm just going to make them into cinnamon rolls. The basic concept is just how you form the dough after the dough is risen. So it will not in any way change the final result other than, like I said, the final form and what it looks like. I just don't feel like fooling around with layering it. I read all the directions and I am in the mood for regular cinnamon rolls. So, as you saw, I ground my wheat berries into flour, and let's get going mixing up this cinnamon pull-apart / cinnamon roll dough. So the first thing you're going to do in this bowl is you're going to proof your yeast. In this recipe, it calls for a 1/2 cup of warm milk. This is almond milk. I just warmed it for a few seconds in the microwave. 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. This is pure maple syrup. And 2.5 teaspoons of yeast, active dry yeast. I'm going to whisk this together. And then you let this sit for 5 to 10 minutes until it becomes frothy. The yeast is very frothy and very proofed, and so now the next step is, I'm going to take this off for a minute. You're going to add to this 1.5 cups of your flour. It's not all the flour that you need for this, but you're going to just start with 1.5 cups. 1. Half. See how poofing up that is when I add the flour? That yeast is really good yeast. The eggs, you're going to have 2 large eggs. And I'm going to keep these shells for compost in the garden. Then you have a 1/4 of a cup of melted butter. Let this butter get a little bit too hot, so I'm going to let this set for just a little bit and let it cool down. I'm going to stick the butter in the freezer for like a minute, and that'll cool it down. It didn't take very long at all in the freezer for this to come down to a more desirable temperature. Not even a minute. It was not like scalding hot or anything. It was just a little, I stuck my finger in it and it was just a little warmer than is ideal. So I'm going to go ahead and then add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to put it on the flour so it's not directly on the yeast. And then you stir this up to combine it. Then you're going to add more flour, 1/4 cup at a time, and you let it incorporate after each addition until the dough begins to pull away from the side of the bowl and the dough is soft but not sticky. Alright, so the dough is nice and soft, it's not sticky, and so I'm going to put a little bit of oil in the bowl. Roll it around, flip it around so that the oiled side is up and the sides of the bowl are nice and oiled. Then you take a clean, moistened tea towel and cover the bowl, and you put this in a warm place to rise until double. About an hour. Usually my yeast doughs rise quicker than that. So I'm going to stick this in my oven with just the pilot light on, and I'll come back and check it in about 40 minutes. Alright, so here's the dough. It is doubled in size. It looks nice and fluffy. So I'm going to turn it out. I'm actually going to get a little bit of flour on here. Just a little. And I'm going to turn the dough out. And I'm going to go ahead, and it says to roll it, but I'm just going to press it out with my fingers. That's the way I usually do my cinnamon rolls. Only rolling pin I have is a big heavy marble one, and it's not worth dragging it out for small jobs like this. But you press it or roll it out into a 10 by 14 inch rectangle. Alright, so this is a pretty close to a 10 by, what did they say? 14. 10 by 14. And this is where I'm like, oh boy, you use an entire stick of butter, which is 1/2 cup. And it says melted, but this is that dairy-free butter, and it's very soft if you just leave it out on the counter for a little while. So I'm just going to plop it in there, and I'm going to smear it around with a spatula. Could just use my fingers, I guess, which I probably will wind up doing, is just using my fingers. Yeah, I am. I'm just going to use my fingers. Why try to fight it? You're going to get your fingers dirty when you cook. There's something going on with my camera. I've noticed the last couple of videos that I have filmed with it,
there have been corrupted files, and I don't know what's going on. But anyway, for whatever reason, the two clips of me making the filling were corrupted, and so I lost them. It's amazing. It was both times when both clips were had to do with the filling. So what you missed was the filling is 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 1/4 of a cup of white sugar, and 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. And you mix it all together, and then after you put the butter, the 1/2 cup of butter on the dough, then you sprinkle it all with the cinnamon sugar mixture, and that's what you missed. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if I hadn't come on here to explain what happened, you guys would probably be wondering, like, what is that she put on there, and why didn't she show? But that was why. And I also lost the clips of the very beginning of me actually grinding the wheat. You saw me sifting it, but I lost the clips of grinding it. I don't know what's going on. I use my iPhone, and I don't know, maybe it needs an update or something. I don't know. I'll have Olivia check into it, because she's good with phones and I am not. But anyway, that's why it just went from a buttered dough to cinnamon sugared dough.
So it's at this point that if you wanted to do those pull apart things is when you'd form them that way. But like I said, I'm just going to do cinnamon rolls. I have a well buttered, just about dropped it, 9 by 13 pan here. And I'm going to use my bench scraper to start this. But you just want to roll these up. I'm going to use my bench scraper to help. These are going to be gooey, ooey gooey, because that's a lot of cinnamon sugar mixture too. Now, if these cinnamon rolls don't turn out gooey enough for the family, there's no hope for them. All right, so then I rolled it till the seam side was up, and I'm just pinching it gently. And then you're going to cut these into, it says it's going to yield 6 large pull-aparts, but since I'm doing cinnamon rolls instead, I'm not sure how many it's going to do. I'm just going to start by using my dough scraper to cut this in half, and then each half in half again. And then I think these into thirds. So I'll get 3, 6, 9, 12, which is about right, because the large pull-aparts are made in those jumbo muffin tins, and in a regular muffin tin that would be 12. Now, of course, these end pieces are going to be smaller, but that's okay. So then you just put them in your pan here. You can space them apart a little bit. I try to vary the sizes. You don't want to put all the skinny ones on the top and the fat ones in the middle, because then they won't get done. They won't get done evenly. So I kind of just stagger them, the sizes.
Maybe you should put the tiny one in the middle instead of the corner.
That's a good idea. That way it won't get burned, maybe. All right, and then I'm just going to scrape up all this extra cinnamon sugar that's on the counter, sprinkle it on there. Then you cover this. I'm going to rinse this towel out. This is the same towel that was over it before. I'm going to rinse this out. And then you cover it again, and you let it rise for 45 more minutes, or until doubled again, in a warm oven. So I'll bring you back when these are ready to bake. Here they are after the second rising. They are almost doubled in size. So I pulled them out of the oven, and I have it preheating at 375. I'll let these rise for probably 10 more minutes while the oven heats up, and then you bake them for about 11 to 15 minutes, something like that, until they are golden brown.
Here they are, straight out of the oven. It's hard to tell that they're golden brown because you're dealing with whole wheat dough, but they were definitely done. I did end up deciding to gild the lily and made a little bit of a glaze just with some powdered sugar in water. I always glaze my cinnamon rolls, so that's what I did. And here it is, my cinnamon roll that I had after dinner. It was delicious. Now I have to say, they're not as light and fluffy as my Christmas cinnamon rolls that I make with white flour, but they are very, very delicious. They really are. The texture's just a little bit different. The taste is a little bit different, but they're really, really good. Definitely worth making. They taste a bit healthier for you, even considering all that butter and sugar. But anyway, I really had a fun time making these cinnamon rolls. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope that you get a grinder and try your hand at grinding wheat, grinding your own grains, and making everything from scratch. Get back to basics. It's a lot of fun. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below, and we will talk to you later, friends. Bye-bye.